Welcome, everyone, to the C-Suite Sales and Marketing Perspectives podcast. I'm Steve McDonald, your host. Today, we've got an incredible guest, Lori Stout. Now, Lori, you are the CMO of Bigleaf Networks, and I'm going to let you explain a little bit more about your background. But to tee it up, you are not only a CMO, but you had a start in customer experience and customer marketing, and you have a real belief in customer obsession, right? And bringing that into everything that you do. And we're going to talk about that in combination with how do you take that into your role as a CMO and specifically in a turnaround, a B2B turnaround. So that's the topic for today. Lessons learned from a B2B turnaround. But before we get into that, I'd love to have you expand a little bit more on your background. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing.
Sure. Thank you so much, Steve. It's great to be here. I appreciate the chance to talk to you about this. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. As you mentioned, I'm the CMO at Bigleaf Networks. I've been here about 2 years. I've seen a lot of growth and change that we'll definitely get into in our conversation today. But as you mentioned, I got my start actually in the CCaaS industry, so working for some of the larger contact center companies, and really enjoyed that time looking at how businesses interact with their customers, what that looks like, what level of personalization do customers expect, how do we treat them as individuals. And I think sometimes as B2B companies, we lose a little bit of that consumer mindset when we're thinking about our buyers. But really, they want to be treated like consumers. They want to know about the companies that they're spending their money with. They want to make sure it's a partnership that's going to value them. So even as B2B executives, we need to think about the twofold customer. So who is our customer that is purchasing from us and partnering with us and putting their trust in us to help them grow their business? And then thinking about that one step further, what do their end customers want and expect and need from the products and services that we're offering? So it was a wild ride, my journey into marketing. I actually had a pre-law degree, thought I was going to go into politics. Glad I did not, especially now. But it was an easy transition into marketing and thinking about, how can I really add value as a marketing leader to helping the customer, whether it's our business buyer or it's their end customer, really get the most value out of where they're placing their trust and their money.
I love it. So that trust, obviously, big foundation. Tell us, as we get started here, obviously, marketing in a turnaround environment has some differences. What's your point of view and the lessons that we should be learning from how do we market a turnaround, and then how do we take that and use those as lessons for all of us?
So I think marketing in the time of a turnaround, which comes with great change, starts internally. We all know that if employees of a company are not happy, they're not invested in what the company is doing, that is going to be immensely transparent to your prospects, your customers, their end customers, the way that your product is perceived, your brand perception. So the first step in marketing, hey, this company has a real opportunity in front of it, and here's how we're going to change it and grow it and make it a really world-class experience for all of us to be part of, is starting internally and making sure that everybody's invested in the why. And for Bigleaf, that was especially unique. Bigleaf has been around about 12 years. We're a network optimization company, so we sell strictly B2B through the channel, and we essentially help businesses stay connected to the internet and help their operations stay up and running smoothly. So our founder was at a point where he thought, well, the company is growing, but it's not growing as quickly as it could. And we're really in this point where we've kind of plateaued. So he took a step back and actually joined our board, and a board member joined Bigleaf as the CEO. We joined about 6 months apart. And some of the first conversations that we had were about, okay, how do we get past this plateau? We're a solid company. We've been doing business with a lot of really consistent partners and businesses for over a decade. But we're just kind of at a point where we're not really experiencing that rapid growth. We're kind of in this is how we've always done it sort of frame of mind. And we just need to get everybody excited about the potential of what this company really could be. So that started with the culture internally at Bigleaf. We have a lot of employees who have been here since the beginning, and they're very passionate about the company and its roots. So that internal marketing perspective and just making sure that you have advocates on the inside of the business that can help reflect your excitement and how you're growing the business on the outside was really important for us.
I have to tell you a story. I've had in the past year 2 CROs on this podcast that have attributed their culture internally to 50% of the success of their company.
I believe
These
it.
are CROs that have a quota on their head, right? And it came up with a CRO of the year, and his CMO was on the podcast, and they were talking about that, and they just talked so much about the importance of, empowering people. And, when you get investment as companies from, a venture capital, private equity or something, we all know they invest in the team first, right?
Absolutely.
The business plan is second, because the best business plan without a great team is not going to succeed. So what I hear my takeaway from what I hear you talking about here is, if you're going to do a turnaround, or you're a startup, or you just want to go to the next level, right? That focusing on your own internal employees is step one in order to do that. Not only bringing them in and understanding why there's great opportunity, but creating a culture of success for them. Is that a bad takeaway from what you said there? Or?
Perfectly stated. And you're right. A lot of business plans look good on paper, but without the people behind it to execute it, there's just no way it's going to happen. I'm reading a really interesting book right now by Gino Wickman that talks about the right people in the right seats. And I think we all hear that terminology and we kind of get what it means, but it really goes into detail about, do they really understand the job that they're doing and the mission ahead of them? Do they want to do it? Which is vastly overlooked and is incredibly important. And then do they have the capacity to do it? So do you have the right people with the right level of enthusiasm kind of rowing in the same direction? And can they get the job done that you need them to do? So it's very, very important. And I love to hear that a CRO said that. That's great.
2 CROs.
2 CROs, even that.
Those are only the 2 I've asked, and so far, and these are companies. One was 100 million, and they're on track in the next couple of years to get to 250 million. 4 years ago, they were at 15 million. So this is a CRO that is a company that is doing really great things and really exploding. And for them to talk about what you're talking about, how important that is. So I just wanted to underscore that at the beginning. Now, at a time of a turnaround, right? Or there's a lot of organizations where we're in the decline, right? And we got to turn things around. Yeah, it's not your situation, but cost becomes a big deal, right? So at the same time, you're energizing the company. This is where our opportunity is. We're trying to change culture, but at the same time, we're trying to tighten our belts, right? And that can be at odds with kind of getting everybody excited, right? Because you're typically not giving lots of raises. We're downsizing in some areas. That can hurt the company culture. How do we talk about cost containment and cash flow, but still accomplish the things that we were just talking about?
That is a very valid point. Hits close to home. And I don't know how many of your guests, I'm sure a lot of them have been in the C-suite for multiple roles. This is my first role in the C-suite. So I'm learning a lot at this company. I've been in leadership roles at other organizations before, but first time CMO. And it's been very eye-opening to me to work with the executive team and really see as far under the covers as you can possibly see into the health of the business and have that level of transparency. And it became really clear when I joined Bigleaf that we were a little bit bloated, for lack of a better word, in some areas of the business and a little bit underserved in some other areas that really could move the needle for us. So unfortunately, we had to go through a period of time where we did that exercise of, do we have the right people here who can help us move forward and get the job done? Do they want to be here? And we had to do a little bit of a downsize. First time I've had to go through that on this side as an executive. It's never easy. And you're right, it has the potential to completely derail the work that you've done with the culture and getting people excited. how we counterbalance that, first off, there have been so many layoffs in the tech world. We have plenty of examples of how to do it and how not to do it. And we were very careful about um, how we talk to people, what benefits and support we could offer them, just trying to make it as human of a process as possible. No one at Big Leaf is just a number to us. We know every single employee by name. We know their spouses' names and their kids' names. And so it's a very hard thing when you have to go through something like that. Secondly, for the team that was here after we had to go through that experience, we were as transparent as possible with them. We answered questions. We had open office hours. We told them the why. Here's why we had to do what we did. And that level of transparency really helps counterbalance the unpleasantness that everyone feels and the sadness of saying goodbye to coworkers that you love to work with and partner with, but that you have to say goodbye to for the health of the overall business. But that level of transparency with the employees that we have with us today has been extremely helpful. They are one of the most enthusiastic, hardworking group of people I've ever met. They're up for the challenge, and we're in a position where we do have the right people in the right seats. Even though we had to go through some hard days to get here, it's definitely it's been such a positive change for me to see people go through that hard time of saying goodbye and the uncertainty, and now feeling like, okay, we are all truly rowing in the same direction.
So you built trust with the employees by doing this. I think that just needs to be underscored, right? We try to do that with our clients. We try to do that with our prospects. But if we don't have the trust of our employees as a part of that culture, right, part of the core values that we hold as a company, then this doesn't work. And so what would you say is, after going through this exercise, just as a litmus test, don't put a number on it or anything, but even after going through some of that downsizing, did you increase trust in the company or decrease trust?
I would say, initially, everybody's very panicked when something like this happens, and there is that time of people waiting for the other shoe to drop. And is this going to happen to me? So it's human nature, and I think as executives, we should expect that initial period of fear and uncertainty, and we should address that head on. So in the initial days, trust was very shaky, even though we tried as hard as we could to make it a smooth process. As the days went by and as we shared that transparency, we saw the trust grow. And it's something that you have to work at too. I mean, you can't be very transparent in the days following that and then suddenly clam up and try to keep secrets or keep your employee population outside of the loop on what's going on with the company. So it's something that you have to really work on, or you can erode that trust over time. But it's definitely something that I've seen in the group that we have, that they believe in the company and where we're headed, and they trust us to make the right decisions.
Go through the hard work that you need to do, because it's going to pay off on the other side, and bigger, deeper authenticity and trust is a part of that. So tell me about, you talked a lot about building strong relationships in terms of identifying like relationships and partnerships internally, but you also talk about partnerships externally and how important that is. Tell me a little bit more about that, if you could.
Yes, I am very far into this and kind of doing the research in those partnership programs right now. So this is very timely. So I mentioned that we sell exclusively through the channel. We don't sell directly to businesses, and our partners are our lifeblood. There was a time in Big Leaf's history where it seemed, before I came, that we kind of tried to collect partnerships and say, oh, we have this number of partners. And then when you actually looked, those partners weren't really engaging with us, weren't really doing a lot of business with us. I don't know if some of them even really would know who we are. If you said, hey, you're a partner of Big Leaf Networks, you might get a who in return. So signing on a partner and engaging with a partner are two very different things. And what we've tried to do, and what we're starting to see a lot of good results from, is identifying who is our ideal partner. Not just ideal for us in that they're going to go sell more Big Leaf network optimization, but ideal for them too. How do we help their end users? Again, through that customer focused lens of what pain points are they trying to solve? What are they not getting from some of our competitors that we could give them and put another tool in their arsenal to help their clients be more successful? And really mapping that out to make sure that if we have a partnership opportunity that ultimately isn't really a good fit, we save each other the time and effort and hassle of trying to put a round peg in a square hole, if you will, and we move on to the next partner that we can really add value to. So I don't mean this in a flippant way because all of our partners are important to us, but focusing really on the quality of the partnership and the mutual benefit rather than the quantity of saying, oh, we have so many partners in our ecosystem, but we want to make sure that every partner in our ecosystem knows who Big Leaf Networks is. They can articulate the value of what we offer to the end users. And it's really a high value relationship on both sides.
I mean, that's the way we think about our customer relationships, right? Is, how is it mutually beneficial for both of us? It's really applying that to partners. And if you're speaking to an audience here that doesn't necessarily have a channel and then partners in that fashion, what are your thoughts about creating outside partnerships and how important that is for a company, and to not necessarily feel like we're doing all the heavy lifting on our own?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can think of it in several ways. You can think of it in more the conventional kind of reseller partnership world where, you have somebody who's interested in marketing and selling your solutions for you. And again, it's that best fit relationship where they're a mirror of your company and your values, and they're representing who you are as a company and what your culture stands for. And there's no discrepancy between the way they do business and the way they treat their customers and the way that you treat your own customers. And then you can also apply this to, contractor relationships, vendor relationships, whether you have an outside marketing agency, a design firm, just any company that you partner with, paid or unpaid, to represent your brand. You really need to apply that customer lens and then that dogged determination to make sure that they reflect your culture, and make sure that partnership is a good fit. Otherwise, you kind of erode that brand credibility and people don't really know who you are. So anyone that you choose to partner with and do business with, you should have that set of questions and that set of criteria to make sure that they're going to reflect your culture, your brand, and the way that you want your customers to perceive you.
Fantastic. And then just, I guess, marketing, is often viewed in a fashion in terms of one of the biggest cost centers in the company, right? So it's why the finger gets pointed at us a lot. It's why, CMOs have the shortest tenure in the C-suite. So in terms of aligning marketing with company goals, revenue goals, cost containment, right? What's your thoughts about in this turnaround strategy, right? What's our goal? How do we contribute? How do we play in that game?
Right. First of all, a mistake that I think some marketers make is they don't try to quantify every department in marketing. So for example, I have a wonderful product marketing director, exceptionally talented. A lot of her goals feel like they're a little bit more qualitative, but we have a set of corporate metrics that are tied very closely to our product bookings and how different bundles are performing. And it is a direct result of the amazing work that she's doing. It's also very validating for her to go back and say, hey, because of these different activities that I've done as a product marketer, I've contributed to X number of dollars of revenue. So my first bit of advice is measure everything, whether it is your PR team, you can measure the value of your media placements, you can measure analyst relations, how many times you've been quoted in analyst reports. You can ask them to quantify some of the value that they're bringing to the relationship. But don't just measure things like leads and MQLs and the things that we typically think of as marketing metrics that we can put on a PowerPoint slide and flash up and say, hey, we have 30% more of these. Measure everything in your department. And if you don't publicly share it with your board or with your executive team, have it, know it, be confident in the value that you're contributing to the organization, because marketing has always been kind of a cost center. And now I feel like there's been a shift. And as we continue to partner more closely with sales, and I'm, speaking personally within Bigleaf Networks, that's the direction that we've taken. I work very closely with the sales team, and our metrics are shared metrics, essentially. That ability to measure and confidently stand up and say, no, I know the impact that we're making, whether it's in product marketing, demand generation, brand awareness, whatever it is, just having those qualitative metrics to tie to it has been incredibly beneficial for us.
And I know you're very data driven, right? So, and as CMOs these days, we have to be, right? It no longer can it be you know, we know marketing works, and so therefore we need to fund it, right? We need to have attribution data. We need to have information that proves what we're doing is worthwhile. And I love the shared metrics, because in all the episodes we've done about why B2B CMOs fail so quickly, the silos between marketing and sales has been right at the top of the list, right? With separate plans. Even get a hold of this. I read this a couple of weeks ago. There is only 16% alignment in general in B2B between marketing and sales on the definition of the ICP.
Really?
Yes.
1%. Ooh.
That's right. Unacceptable at so many levels, right? So the fact that you have shared metrics means that there's a shared plan, right? And then that there's a sharing, you're an actual go-to-market team, right? That's going forward. So I think that's, in any organization, that's absolutely critical.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've had both ways where there is that silo between sales and marketing, and even worse, between marketing and product. So having three departments really working in sync. And again, having that transparency to where the business is headed and how you're going to get there, and making sure that all of the metrics that you're tracking are aligned to your cohorts in product and sales has been very helpful. So I've benefited from working with a very collaborative executive team at Bigleaf, and will definitely take this experience with me and model it anywhere I end up in the future.
So I have another question to ask, and I'm going to tell you up front, it's not one we talked about before. Okay. So there's a lot of studies that are out, led by McKinsey, Gardner, that talk about the traditional model for how we create competitive advantage, sustainable long-term competitive advantage, right, in order to grow our companies, has changed dramatically over the years, where in a lot of product-led organizations, right, technologies, SaaS companies, but any companies, we can't rely on our product to be our competitive advantage long-term. With rapid technological innovation and ChatGPT writing, code these days, and as soon as you come up with something on your platform that somebody else is going to model that, they're going to innovate, so it's hard to do that in the long term, right? And we have on average about 20 to 30 different competitors usually in our markets that we play with. So being the low-cost leader, we don't want to be, and we don't really have the opportunity or the ability to be. The traditional ways that we differentiate ourselves and create a competitive advantage have eroded. And their answer is, this I wanted to get your opinion too, their answer is that long-term competitive, sustainable advantage that leads to long-term growth and value for the organization comes from CX, comes from the customer experience. That the company that has the greatest customer experience for their customers wins. I just wanted to know, you have a background in customer experience and, contact centers. And so I'm dying to ask you what your opinion is about CX, customer experience, as the most important competitive advantage for companies today.
Well, I was hoping that was the punchline and you were going to say CX, because if you didn't, I probably would have argued and said that it was CX. So we're definitely on the same page, and we're seeing this in a very tangible way at Bigleaf. We have, when you think of what we do, internet connectivity and optimizing networks, we do have some product differentiators that are pretty standout. But what we do is in this day and age with everyone needing internet connectivity, it's kind of commoditized. So we do have to find a way to stand out and, be the partner that everyone wants to work with. And we've done that through the customer experience. For us, that experience looks like the support experience and customer success that we offer to our partners, and then by extension to their end users. And we can measure this. We measure this through software review sites, through the case studies that we get, through the customer reference calls that we get. And I will go on record right here with Steve McDonald and say that I don't think anyone else in our industry can match the level of support and customer care that we do. And that's reflected in the way that we treat every single customer interaction, every single partner conversation that we have. The way we handle issue resolution. If somebody opens a ticket, how quickly we resolve that problem and the links that we go to really come to a resolution for that partner as quickly as possible. So it's something I'm very, very proud of. As we talked about, customer experience is just part of my DNA at this point. And the fact that Big Leaf places such an emphasis on that, and it's a publicized differentiator that we talk about with our company, that when you get our solution, you also get our support team and our commitment as a partner. So I wholeheartedly agree that that is a long-term competitive differentiator.
I love that. And, I was just talking to the CEO of another company, and he's going to a really large CX convention. And we were going over the agenda and the speakers and the topics being covered and the fireside chats. And it was everything that you would have expected. What was not there was CX as a competitive advantage. It seems as though you've got your point of view that you've lived, you've seen it, you've lived it, you're streetwise on the fact that CX is the most important competitive advantage, right? We've got the Kinseys and the Gartners of the world that are substantiating this. Why, in your opinion, isn't it more pronounced, more understood, more part of the absolute game plan, the go-to-market strategy that we're focusing on as a B2B industry?
I think people don't equate it to dollars and cents, and that's a huge oversight. They equate it to still something kind of feel good and warm and fuzzy. And yeah, people really like our brand, but it has a direct connection to your bottom line. And, if you are on a short list and you have a reputation for excellent support and being a good partner, you're gonna win over somebody who maybe even has a couple of extra features that your product doesn't. People don't want to do business with somebody who is hard to do business with. We all have enough vendors and products and applications and things in our lives that we have to manage. We want the shortest path to solving the problem that we need to solve. And that is going to impact your bottom line every single time. So it's interesting that you said that. You just kind of gave me an idea for a blog that I'm going to write after this. But I think that more executives need to draw that direct connection between the experience that they offer customers and how that ties to their bottom line. Big Leaf, for example, we have world-class customer retention metrics. I have never seen anything like it. And I could stare at those charts all day long because it makes me so proud that when somebody chooses to do business with Big Leaf and we make a promise to them about the experience that they'll get, we really come through on that promise. So it has made a huge impact on our turnaround and our growth, and it can for every business if they just see how to connect those dots.
I love it. We've talked about so much here. If there was one thing that you wanted everybody that was listening in, tuning in, doing this podcast to take away, what would that one thing be?
Oh, I would say, when you're in a position where you're trying to turn around a business, you're in a high growth phase and you have your eye on the ball and the targets that you want to make over the next few years, just don't lose sight of those two things that we talked about. Keep a very close check on the pulse of how your culture is feeling, what your people are thinking, if they're still understanding and coming alongside you in that journey. And then secondly, make sure that you never lose sight of that customer experience and all the layers of the customer experience, whether it be for your partners, the businesses that buy from you, or the end users of the services and products that you offer. And then maybe a 2.5 point, if I might. Just know that you're not always going to get it right. I mean, these times of high growth are really hard. So be really open and honest with the people that you work with the employee population at large. Be willing to fail, apologize when you do, and just keep track of how your culture and your customer approach are working for you, and success will follow.
I love that. Words of wisdom. I know people are going to have questions after this. Would it be appropriate that we gave a link out to your LinkedIn profile that people could reach out to you?
Oh, sure, that would be great. Yep, it's Lori Brokaw Stout on LinkedIn. Love to hear from you.
Fantastic. Well, Lori, thank you for coming on and sharing all these insights and just being part of sharing within your peer community and how we can all learn and grow from each other. I appreciate it.
So much.